Whole Foods Market reported their earnings, and there was a little bit of a controversy regarding the report, Jim, and mostly because as I went through the transcript from the conference call, the analysts were really hammering them on pricing. And the company themselves kept saying, we're going to get more promotional, we're going to price ourselves better. They've never really talked about pricing that much in the past.
I don't know if that's fair. I interviewed Walter Robb about the quarter, and if you go through the conference call, I think they've been somewhat consistent. They'll pick the price when they have to. They're obviously trying to fend off competitors. They said they love the competition. But in the end, the stock was down 10%. It reminds me of Buffalo Wild Wings because people felt that the comp numbers weren't as good. Buffalo Wild Wings did 1. People were looking for 4. Next thing you know, when you start annualizing the comps, and you have to do that for these companies. You have to do it for Chipotle. You have to do it for Buffalo Wild Wings. You have to do it for Whole Foods. You realize that the numbers stacked 2 years are really, really good, which is why the stock then had a big recovery. It is an expensive stock. You're talking about a stock 35 times earnings, but you have 1,000 stores. They could raise that. That's their goal. They could raise that to say 1,200 stores without a problem. And I continue to believe the momentum is there. Remember, the stock came from in this last quarter. The stock was at the equivalent of about 41. 42, and then it moved up to 56, 57. So a little pullback could be warranted, but there wasn't anything in this conference call that was as negative as the analysts, I think, tried to portray it.
Well, I think the thing that you have to wonder is if they talk so much about pricing and being promotional, isn't that going to affect their gross margin?
They didn't. It was just the analysts over and over again saying it. And frankly, when I've done a lot of work on Whole Foods, and their price cutting is consistent. Now, they did a dramatic series of things in order to be able to make it so they still had the gross margins be good, even with some lower prices in some places. But I think there's an affinity card story that's going to be bubbling. There's a bunch of new stores that are coming. The analysts were just saying, listen, because of Sprout, they didn't mention them, but they wanted to craft a thesis. Now, I've been there many times where analysts, Deborah, they want to craft a thesis. And the craft thesis is there's too much competition. Now, Walter said, listen, there is a lot of money being thrown at these companies, and obviously, if they have a lot of money thrown at them, they can expand. But in the end, Whole Foods delivered a consistent quarter that was a lot more like the May quarter, which was a good quarter, than it was the February quarter, where by their own admission it was disappointing. So I'm unmoved here. Whole Foods is a buy if it comes in. Buy, not a sell.
Do you think that the analysts were too unrealistic in their expectations, that they've built this company up so high that when the company is coming in, still good numbers, it isn't good enough?
They're wrong. It is.
There you go.
I've done more work than they have. Sometimes that happens. Many stocks I haven't. This one I have.
This one you have, and you love your Whole Foods.
Yep.
All right, there you go. Jim's loving the Whole Foods market.